All right, so today we are going to learn about adding and subtracting decimals. The process of adding and subtracting decimals is exactly like whole numbers. The only difference is lining up decimals. So let me just give you a quick reminder, okay? If I am adding 128 plus 379, okay? Remember, I add 8 and 9, okay, to get me 17. So that's 7 ones and one group of 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 0 tens and I regroup to 100. 3, 4, 5. And I have 507. Okay, I'm going to do the opposite operation, partly to check, but also because it's adding and subtracting today. So I'm going to take 507 and I'm going to subtract 379. And if I did this problem correctly, this answer should be 128. I cannot take 9 from 7. If I look next door, there's nothing in the tens place to regroup from. So I'm going to borrow a group of 100. Well, 100 is equal to 10 tens. I'm going to borrow a group of tens to place over here. And now I have 17 minus 9. 17 minus 9 is 8. 9 minus 7 is 2. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So we did do that correctly. Now, I want to show you what that looks like with decimals. Let's say I have a 12 and 8 tenths and 37 and 9 tenths. I like to always place my decimal first so I don't forget. Well, 8 plus 9 is 17. 7, 8, 9, 10. 3, 4, 5. Oh my, look at those digits. Okay, same thing, right? Okay, so let's take my 50 and 7 tenths, subtract 37 and 9 tenths to see if we get 12 and 8 tenths. Well, again, can't do 7 minus 9, and there's nothing here. So I'm going to regroup and regroup one more time. 17 minus 9 is 8. 9 minus 7 is 2. And 4 minus 3 is 1. Again, same digits. Okay? I did that because I want to illustrate to you the process of adding and subtracting decimals is exactly the same as with whole numbers. The only thing that's different is that you must line up your decimals. Okay? Here's why that's so important. Let's say instead of 12 and 8 tenths, let's say that this was 1 and 28 hundredths. Okay? And that this is still 37 and 9 tenths. And I want to add those together. Well, if I try to do that, I'm left with 2 decimals, and that is impossible. I cannot have 2 decimals. Okay, so what I need to do, I'm going to give myself some room here, is I need to rewrite those problems, those add-ins, with the decimal lined up. Okay, so see how this is 37 and 9 tenths? So I write it like that because the decimal is lined up. Now, what I want to do is any place like this that doesn't have a value needs to have a 0. Now, if I want, I can also put a 0 here, but that's before the number, and we don't normally do that. Okay, but definitely after this 9, I need a 0 here because I need to know that there's no hundredths to add to this 8. So then if I add those together, 9 and 2 is 11. Make sure I put my decimal. 7, 8, 9, and then 3. Okay, you see how this is a very different answer than what we got over here? Okay, because I changed the value of the digits by putting that decimal in there. So the really, really important thing is to remember, number one, line up your decimal. Okay, if you don't, then you're going to be adding or subtracting the wrong place values. And number two, add zeros if needed. And you're going to see how easy this is. Okay, so the first problem that I'm going to do is 82 hundredths plus 4 and 21 hundredths. Again, I like to put that decimal there right away because it doesn't do me good if I add these and I forget my decimal and I have a whole number answer because then it's wrong. So I always like to add my decimal first. So 2 plus 1 is 3. 8 plus 2 is 10. So I regroup. 1, 0, and 4 is 5. And there you are, 5 and 300ths. Okay, the next one, 9 and 1/10 plus 7 and 21 hundredths. Okay, notice my first step, line up my decimal. That's super important because if I didn't pay attention on this one, I would have this over more and then I'd come up with 2 decimals again. And then add zeros if needed. So this one needs a 0 here. Okay, and now I just add 1, 3, and 16. And the last one for addition, we're going to do 9 and 7/10 plus 0 and 24 hundredths. Okay, I lined up my decimal, add zeros if needed, I do right here, and now I add 4, 9, and 9. Okay, now let me erase these and we'll do a couple of subtraction problems. Okay, we're going to, again, I line up my decimal, add zeros if needed, and then I subtract. So maybe right here I should write for this step, add or subtract. Okay, so I'm going to take 16 and 82 hundredths, and I'm going to subtract 5 and 21 hundredths. So notice I have lined up my decimal. Now, do I have zeros that I need to place in here? I do not. Remember, this is only if needed. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And so now I'm going to subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1. 8 minus 2 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. And 1 and nothing is 1. That was pretty easy because there was no regrouping. You can always take this and add. So 11 and 61 hundredths. Add 5 and 21 hundredths. And that gives you the answer we started with. That's how you check your subtraction problem. Some of you are still not 100% confident in your subtraction skills. And so I would suggest that during this lesson especially, if you know that you're not 100% confident, that you go ahead when there's a subtraction problem and you make sure you check with your addition. Okay, the next problem, 7 and 21 hundredths minus 6 and 100. Excuse me, 1/10. Okay, Did I line up my decimal? I did. Okay. Do I need to add zeros? I do right here. And then I subtract. 1 minus 0, 2 minus 1, 7 minus 6. Oh, and look at that. 1 and 11/100. Okay. So if I want to, I can check with addition. 1, 2, and 7. Okay, again, that one was pretty easy. There was no regrouping to that. All right, last one together. Whoops, eraser, not writing. This one will have some regrouping because we need to practice that. Okay, so 23 and 6/100 minus 8 and 24/100. All right, so did I line up my decimal? I did. Do I need to add any zeros? I do not. I could if I want to right here, but I don't have to. So now I subtract. Well, 6 minus 4 is 2. I cannot do 0 minus 2. So I need to borrow a 1. Okay, this is the 1 spot. So I'm borrowing a 1. 1 is equal to 10 tenths. Okay, so I'm putting 10 tenths here. 10 tenths minus 2 tenths is 8 tenths. Well, now I need to do 2 minus 8, and I can't do that. So I take a 10 and add it here. 12 minus 8 is 4, and then I have 1 left over. Okay, so let's check that with the opposite operation, which is addition. $14.82 plus $8.24. Now, it didn't really say cents, dollars and cents, but if it's in the hundredths, then I can think of it as money. So 2 plus 4 is 6. 8 plus 2 is 10. 4, 1, and 8 is 13. 1 and 1 is 2. And that is what we started with. All right, so 2 tips for today, other than making sure you're following these 3 steps. Number 1, make sure that all of your answers have the decimal place. Okay, if I forget this decimal place here, okay, and I write these answers as 1,482 and 2,306, it is wrong. Okay, you must have your decimal place. And also in the right place as well, because if I accidentally mess up and I put a decimal here, what I'm saying is that this answer is 148 and 2/10, when really it needed to be here. Okay, that's why this first step is so important. Make sure you line that decimal up. And the other thing is make sure you're paying attention to your symbols today, your operation symbols. Okay, it really would not be fun if you did all the work, like you did all this work in subtraction and you're like, okay, yes, I got this answer. And then you get it wrong because it wasn't actually subtraction, but it was addition. Okay, and you would be surprised how many fifth graders do that. So make sure you're paying attention to the little details.